Drink it in, man.
Deep left side carry on. Picks on the block. At the 5. At the 2. At the 1 to the end zone. Touchdown, Detroit Lions.
Drink it in, man.
Get up, Stafford throws. It is end zone. Caught! Oh, baby, what a catch! Kenny Galladay, you're a freak! What a catch! Touchdown, Detroit Lions! Cornbread!
I love the Lions! Say it with me! I love the Lions!
Drink it in, man.
Detroit Koolaid drinkers. I mean, we're back here on the Detroit Koolaid Cast on a Wednesday where we serve it up so everybody out there can drink it in.
Drink it in, man.
I am excited to be back on the show. I've got Joey from the Bleav podcast network is back on. I haven't talked to him since the NFL draft. Everybody knows this guy's a Bears honk. He's coming on the Koolaid Cast talking Chicago Bears all day. And he had himself quite a draft, as well as my Detroit Lions did. So we'll get into it back and forth. We'll also talk about the Packers and the Vikings as well. We'll do that NFC roundup, as you know we do. So Joey, it's been a bit, man. It came and went, the NFL draft. How you doing?
To quote the band Morrissey, every day is Sunday now.
Oh, my goodness. He's breaking out quotes on me. I mean, I don't even know what's going to happen when we get to your Bears and talk about what they did. I mean, I told you for weeks and weeks, months and months when you came on, they needed a quarterback. We thought they would clunk it up and do something. They made a bold move, but I could not be happier, as well as Detroit Koolaid drinkers could not be happier with what the Lions did. I mean, we'll get to them. Big bodies, good value, good picks throughout. So really excited. So, hey, man, let's just not mess around. Let's get into these teams. We'll talk about it. We'll give the people the picks, give our opinions, and work our way through these teams. You ready to go?
Yeah, man, I'm excited, man. I mean, I think it's fair to say that the Bears and Lions, our arrows are pointing up, and the other two teams in the division are pointing down right now. And I'm elated to be here. So let's get into it.
Oh, you gotta love it. Wait to start us off there, Joey. So let's get to a team that we think is heading down and down fast, and that's the Green Bay Packers. Now, before we even talk about their draft, I want your take on the smug number 12. I mean, before we even get into it, was this guy gonna be the quarterback in 2021 and beyond, or is, I like to say, he gone?
As of right now, all the tea leaves, right, are pointing towards Aaron Rodgers leaving town. I'm not willing to bite on that poop sandwich yet. Exactly. I would love to see him anywhere. I heard, Miami's a beautiful time this year. I thought San Francisco was a great spot for him. Even New Orleans. But as of right now, I feel like he's still going to be a Packer in 2021. The good news is, though, Derek, is that after this season, there is a 0% chance Aaron Rodgers is in the NFC North, which is perfect in terms of our timeline of our two teams trying to rebuild and trying to get back on top. So, I mean, all the directions are pointing towards eventually an Aaron Rodgers-less NFC North, and it makes me very, very happy. And I'm also very happy that, dude, you know this better than anyone. We have not been rooting for this guy. We've been hating on this dude for years and years, and now he's starting to show the national media a little bit more about his personality, the personality that we've known about for a long time, and it feels good to be right.
Oh, man, like you say, I think he has a home in Denver. I mean, a team that has a lot of weapons, which he's always complaining about. I mean, a team that probably has some cap space that can use him. I'm here to say it. I said it on a previous show. He's not going to be with the Cheeseheads. He will be with another squad. I think it will be the Denver Broncos. They're going to use their, template that they used with Peyton Manning, where they got this quarterback that was on the back half of his career. He had a couple of years left. He goes out there, tries to win a ring, but unlike Peyton Manning, Mr. Rodgers will fall short, and I will take great glee and happiness in his failures. Like I said, the only place he wants to be less than Green Bay is at a family reunion right now. Hey-oh! I don't know. I mean, we both think he's going to be gone. We both want him gone. So, we'll see what happens. But let's go ahead and get into their draft. I mean, everyone's talking about a receiver, talking about, some other skill guys, whatever it may be. They do what they do, which is they went corner. I think they've drafted, 4 corners in the last, handful of years or so. Eric Stokes out of Georgia, good player, but seemed like kind of a reach at that point. Then they went Josh Myers, center from Ohio State. He's going to replace Lindsley there. And then they went Amari Rodgers there in the 3rd round at pick 85 overall. Nice little gadget type receiver. A lot of people are comparing him to Randall Cobb. I mean, what'd you think about those first 3 selections for Green Bay?
Not a big surprise, right? Pretty much to the script. And another reason why, the very, very smart Aaron Rodgers, who will, when he is on Denver next year, will very smartly get to play Patrick Mahomes in the division twice a year. Very, very smart Aaron Rodgers. But yeah, Eric Stokes, I mean, yeah, they poured a lot into that position over the last couple of years. Obviously, Kevin King is not really their dude anymore. Moving on from him doesn't really move the needle for me. Not a big surprise that they went in on the offensive line. I mean, they love big dudes that love to eat English muffins and never shower. The curious thing, obviously, is Amari Rodgers, dude, and that's probably the guy we need to talk about. Not because he's the most talented guy, but you mentioned it very perfectly. He's kind of a Randall Cobb slot receiver replacement type dude. And let's be honest, Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers, the slot receiver, he's probably going to have success. He's probably going to be a guy that our defense are going to have to account for on Sunday. So that's really the one that sticks out to me. Other than that, pretty ho-hum, doesn't move the needle. Of course, they went to the NFC Championship game last year. Does this draft get them closer to the Super Bowl? No, it doesn't. But, I'm curious to get your take. I mean, it just feels kind of boring to me. It doesn't really make them a lot better.
Yeah, I didn't love this draft whatsoever. I mean, those top 3 picks to me are the ones that really stick out because, I don't ever mind drafting corners. You need another guy in the middle of your offensive line, and then, they've been begging for these receivers all day. So they're all from big schools, they're quality prospects. And you go down their list. I mean, Royce Newman, Slayton, a defensive tackle that wasn't on my radar. Jean Charles, who I heard somebody trying to talk up about a good corner. He's from App State, okay? I mean, he wasn't really on my radar. He's not a guy that I'm craving. Then they go to their well, which is Cole Van Layden. Just get us another Wisconsin offensive lineman. Yeah, that's really worked out for you well over there. And then they went with Kylan Hill late, which to me, really good talent. A lot of people are trying to talk this guy up. Do they forget that they took Dillon last year? They already paid Aaron Jones, and now you get a malcontent like Kylan Hill, who's talented but quit his team, has some issues off the field. I mean, yeah, this is a pretty big miss for me with the Packers draft, unless Stokes and Rodgers are absolute impact players, and Josh Myers is just going to be a guy that's going to settle in on the offensive line, but he's no game changer, I'll tell you that.
So, Derek, my question for you is, in terms of Kylan Hill, I don't know a lot about him. Do you feel like he was drafted in the 7th round because of those off the field teammate issues? Like, is he a talented guy? Because clearly they need that third dude, right? I mean, you guys brought in Williams, from them in the offseason. Is he like a 5th round talent drafted in the 7th round because he's not a good teammate?
Yeah, that's about where I'm at with it. Like, I feel like he was a 4th, 5th round type guy. He's a number 2 on the high end. A number 3, 4 running back probably on the low end. He's got some production, but like I say, just this whole debacle that kind of happened with his teams and his college career and just kind of not knowing where he's at. He's just the flyer, kind of like we'll get to later with the Lions. The Lions took a running back flyer right after him, and if they wouldn't have taken Kylan Hill, it was a guy that was worth it, I thought, at that point. But like I say, it's not a big deal. This isn't a draft from the Packers where I'm like, oh, man, they're going to be dominant. Or like you say, we're goofing on Aaron Rodgers, but I'm excited to see her. I was a Jordan Love guy. I feel like I liked that player and feel like he could be really good. And some of these pieces that we haven't seen yet, like Dillon could be something to deal with, I think, at running back when they give him a chance. Like Aaron Jones is good pretty much every year. So it's not that they don't have players, but I just feel like, I'm curious to see what Love does when he gets the ball, because I think it's going to happen this year. And then the rest of their picks are just ho-hum. But also when I say that, I'm kind of like, like you said, Aaron Rodgers is no genius. The Packers have obviously done something right. They got good rosters. So, I mean, over the last few years, I haven't hated their drafts, but this isn't one that I love after the first couple picks. So that's kind of where I'm at with it.
Yeah, it doesn't scare me. I'm not scared, right? And that's good news for the NFC North for if you're not a Packers fan.
Let's go ahead and do this. Everybody knows on the Koolaid Cast, we got to save my Lions till the last to talk about them. Hang everybody here on the show. Thank you so much for listening. Hit that subscribe button. Give me a follow on Twitter at Derek Oakrey on Twitter. You can find Joey over there on IG at Christopoulos. You can definitely just find him. He's doing all things Bleav Podcast Network, videos, talking to everybody under the sun, whether you talk about sports, entertainment, movies, whatever it may be. You can find him out there. So we'll stop talking about the Packers. We'll talk about my Lions last. But before we take our commercial break, Joey, let's go ahead and get to the Chicago Bears. Your squad. You are the host of Bleav in Bears on the Bleav Podcasting Network. We're sitting there in the draft, pick 11. The Chicago Bears jump up, and they jump up to take a guy named Justin Fields. Now, before you comment, I mean, everybody knows my take on that school from down south that I shall not speak of. They know that my Lions passed on this guy because we already have a QB and feel like that was a better option. I know you're going to go on and tell me how great this was, but I also want you to respond to, I don't know, this.
Also kind of a good singer. Love. Oh, that was so bad. All right, here we go. Love. I found. That was probably a 6 out of 10. I usually sing better.
That's your quarterback, Joey. That's your guy saying that was a 6 out of 10. We all know that was an absolute 0, just like I hope he is at the quarterback position for those Bears. I mean, there you go. Before you can pub him up, I had to knock you down with that clip. I mean, that's an all-timer right there.
Thank God. Cutler, voice of an angel. Don't need it. Don't need them to win American Idol. Just need them to win a football game. And hey, dude, look, for the people that have listened to the past pods when I've been on, and you've been so gracious to have me on several times, and I really appreciate it. You know, we go back, right, and we just talk about the desperation of where our franchise was and Mitch Trubisky and where we were with it all, and we knew we had to make a change. And we were looking at all sorts of options in the offseason. You know, Derek Carr cost a first-round pick. Carson Wentz, 2 first-round picks. You know, Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson, 3 first-round picks, on and on and on. We put ourselves in this position. We were kind of the bed that we made ourselves in. And the fact we were able to move up from 20 to 11 for only 1 first-round pick. He is on a rookie contract, my friend. It is not going to cost a whole lot of money. And look, I don't really know what's going to happen, but I'll tell you something that hasn't happened in Chicago history. We have never had a dude that is 6'3", that can run a 4.4, that can throw the 60-yard deep ball, and the guy that's actually really serious about winning. I don't need a dude, and you're gonna feel me on this with Dan Campbell. You know, I don't need some dude with we're gonna talk about Fields' pedigree, we're gonna talk about Ohio State, we're gonna talk about all this stuff, but I just like the dude. He doesn't smile, he just works, super intelligent. He's ready to put in the work, and there's a pretty darn good chance that he's probably going to be one of the best quarterbacks in Chicago Bears history, which is not saying a lot, but it is definitely saying something. And I will tell you that no matter what happens as of today, when we're talking in May right now, the Bears fan base is energized, rejuvenated. We are so excited for the season, and we are so excited that the Andy Dalton experiment is going to be the shortest experiment you were ever going to watch in my life, my friend. And so in that regard, we feel pretty darn good about Justin.
Well, Joey, when you come on the show, I mean, you know, I gotta give you some grief, but it's all in good fun because, when I'm sitting there watching the draft, I mean, when they traded up, you knew this was where they were going. I told a lot of people I do think it's a good selection. I think the value was good. I think the trade that they made was, you know, like you said, a reasonable deal to get up and get this type of player. It doesn't matter what else you do at other positions if they did not have a dynamic signal caller at quarterback. And like you say, I'm curious to see how he will be, when it comes to some of his drawbacks, whether it be the processing or just, like you say, he's in Chicago. He seems kind of like a Chicago type of guy, got a little bit of swagger, got a little bit of, I wouldn't call it a chip on his shoulder. It's almost like, entitlement's the wrong word, but I feel like he's going to.
It's business, right? He just feels like a dude that's just there to do business. And I will tell you, Derek, I did think about you when we traded up to 11, because don't think for 1 second, as a Bears fan who was so scarred with Ryan Pace, I did not think that was going to be Mac Jones at 11. And I was terrified out of my mind. You have no idea. I was so happy that we just picked, not like the right dude, but we just didn't pick Mac Jones. We didn't trade up for Mac Jones. I was so happy.
Exactly. No, that, like you say, I couldn't see that happening with this kind of kid on the board. And like you say, you should be excited as a fan base. I think they, again, I'm not a big fan of trading up, but for a quarterback, I'm fine with it. Now, they did back that up and trade up for Tevin Jenkins, who was a first-round type talent. He fell to 39. They went up and got him as well. You guys need offensive line help, so they really addressed some needs off the bat with two kind of top quality football players at good value. I mean, Tevin Jenkins a little bit older at 23 years old already, but nasty mentality. So we'll see if that works out for you as well. Herbert, the running back that they took there in, round 5, all the way down at 217. I kind of like what he has as a backup to Montgomery. Daz Newsome was a decent value pick late. I mean, any other things you want to educate me on? Because I felt overall, those first couple picks were fine. Then obviously they had to wait for a long time. But if those top two work out for you, that's really going to help your team.
Just a couple of nuggets real quick. One, I'm curious we're going to get to the Lions a little bit later, man, but it is funny where I just sort of feel like, and I feel like the Lions might be in the same boat where for whatever reason, the draft kind of worked out in our favor this year. Like, and just from previous years, I mean, the Chicago Bears are the franchise that had Aaron Donald get drafted one selection before them. You know what I'm saying? Like, they had Quentin Nelson taken one selection before them. The cards never really fell in our way, and I felt like for the first time ever, the draft kind of worked out in our favor. The one guy that you didn't mention, I do like Khalil Herbert and Daz Newsome. We'll see what they bring to the table. I talked to a lot of people in Chicago. A lot of people are really into Thomas Graham. Now, we got Thomas Graham, I believe, in like the 6th round. He's a cornerback. He was a 3-year starter who obviously opted out of last year. He's got a couple issues here and there, but everyone across the board says this is more than a round 6 talent. And that was kind of an area we had to address because we had to let Kyle Fuller go because our cap situation's all messed up. So if we can get any value out of a round 6 cornerback, Thomas Graham, and if he can get on the field and contribute at all next year, that is a huge success, and that is a big-time pick. That's probably the only other one out of the bunch that you mentioned. Tevin Jenkins is just rad because you spend all these months looking at these mock drafts, and all this mock draft season, we just read Tevin Jenkins to the Bears at 20. We get Justin Fields, and we get Tevin Jenkins. It sort of feels like we get 2 first-round picks in 1 year. It feels pretty good.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good point. Like, I had him going to the Raiders a lot. I was kind of surprised he slid. But, I think you're really going to have to not only keep your eye on those top 2 and see how they really produce, but then you're not picking around 5, 6, 7. So you're going to have to see or maybe get some production from those late guys. You really can't leave a draft with 2 players. You need to have that handful of guys that contribute. So, it's one I'll keep my eye on, but everybody left the draft just giving the Bears high grades just because of that quarterback. Did you have any expectations or even thoughts heading in that this could be a possibility or that you might walk away from day one of the NFL draft with Justin Fields?
My expectations were the worst possible expectations you can imagine, Derek.
Come on.
No. It was like, it wasn't that I thought that we weren't going to go for a quarterback. I was kind of hoping that we were going to be boring and just stay at 20 and take Tevin Jenkins, and then just kind of roll the ball out with Andy Dalton for a year, maybe see where we're at, and then kind of go back into it next year. I was terrified that we were going to move up to 4, and we were going to trade X, Y, Z, D, F, K for whoever was there at 4. Now, could that have been Justin Fields? Sure. That could have also been Trey Lance. I was just worried that we were going to give up so much because we were so desperate. The narrative out there all offseason long and very justified was that the Bears were the most desperate team for a quarterback in the NFL. So, hey, let's take advantage of the Bears. And that was my fear going in. And I'm just really glad that once they got to double digits, we talked about it when we were doing our mock draft. If they got to double digits, all of a sudden that price became very reasonable. They were able to get up there. You know, they had to pay a little bit for it. But, I mean, dude, like, if I have a quarterback, Justin Fields, for the next 5 or 6 years, I can at the very least wrap my head around taking me to playoff games. I'm a happy man, right?
Yep, him with the pass protector as well is a nice little combo and nice value. So we'll see how it works out for your squad. I'm going to have to send you some Chicago Kool-Aid so you can be a little more positive about your team and not go in with these worries and have the dark clouds. You got to be excited about what your team did. We will get to my Lions here in a bit. Joey, you know what we might have to do? I don't know if we'll be able to do this Friday. I think we are hopefully going to be able to get you back Friday, huh? I know that we're trying to work some things out. We both got real busy schedules, but the hope is maybe to get you back on the Friday show.
Oh, I'm in, man. I'm in. I'm super excited, and I almost feel like that Friday show will give us an opportunity to dive in a little bit deeper about why Hall of Famer Justin Fields is going to be the king of the North, for the next decade. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm excited to come back Friday, man. I think we got a lot to talk about because it's super funny. The Lions and the Bears, as I mentioned before, are two teams to kind of keep an eye on. I know the next team that we're going to talk about, the Vikings, is like, looking in the back of the fridge at a loaf of bread, and you go, oh crap, that loaf of bread's got mold on it. I never ate it. You know what I mean? Like that sort of feels like the Vikings are. And we're not in that boat. It feels good.
Definitely does, man. Like you say, we'll see what we can pull together Friday. I always love talking football with you, and because you're so hype about Justin Fields and his singing, we might have to put him under the microscope. Maybe put him in a little Kool-Aid court or something. Might have to just get out. We'll see what we come up with. No promises, but you might want to tune in Friday. You never know what you might get here.
Kool-Aid court. I can't wait to be in the first installment of that. That is can't miss. That is can't miss. I can't wait to find out.
All right, Joey. Well, let's go ahead and do this, man. Let's take a break, get our sponsors in here. When we come back, we're talking about those moldy bread Minnesota Vikings as well as the ferocious, hungry, and overlooked Detroit Lions on the back half of the show. Everybody, we'll be right back.
A Max, seu streaming queridinho, veio aqui no seu podcast pra saber. Você curte reality aventureiro ou prefere um conteúdo mais emocionante? Seja lá qual for seu preferido, tem na Max. Os realities que você ama, como Quilos Mortais, agora em versão 100% brasileira. E tem novidade, Sobrevivência Extrema vai ser o seu novo vício pra maratonar. Tem Largados e Pelados, Masterchef, Operação Fronteira e muito mais conteúdo brazuca pra ver. Vida real pra todos os gostos é na Max.
Detroit Koolaid drinkers, I am fired up. I am excited to tell you about one of our new great sponsors. Now, by now, most of you have probably heard of Reality Sports Online, the powerful fantasy sports platform where owners get to build and manage their fantasy team like a real NFL general manager. But the question is, have you tried it? I mean, it's time to go see what the buzz in the Dynasty fantasy community is all about. Free agency, multi-year contracts, rookie drafts, multi-team trades, franchise tags, contract extensions, first-round rookie options, and so much more. Think it sounds complicated? It's not. The best thing about Reality Sports Online Fantasy Front Office is that it doesn't take any more time than a standard league. It just requires more strategy. Do you think you're among the fantasy elite? Well, this is the platform to test your mettle. Still not sure? You can test your general manager skills for free in a mock free agency auction. So here's what I need all you guys to do. Head over to Reality Sports Online. You'll hear me talk about it on the show and call it RSO. Head over to Reality Sports Online and check them out right now.
Quando você ouve um podcast, está procurando entretenimento ou conhecimento, certo? E se você procura por desempenho e qualidade para o seu veículo, qual a sua escolha? Os amortecedores Motorcraft têm tecnologia Ford e oferecem uma condução suave para uma viagem tranquila e segura. Escolha a confiabilidade dos amortecedores Motorcraft, válidos para a linha K, Fiesta, EcoSport e muito mais. Quando terminar seu podcast, é só acessar a loja da Ford no Mercado Livre e experimentar a diferença.
Detroit Koolaid drinkers, we're back from the break. Thank you so much for listening to our sponsors. Go check out realitysportsonline.com, the greatest fantasy platform you'll ever find if you love fantasy football. And like I say, it's just so fun to have Joey from the Bleav podcast network. That's spelled Bleav. Joey, tell them where they can check you out, all the different content you're putting out there before we get into Vikings and Lions on the back half of the show.
Well, I am more than happy to be a member of the Bleav Podcast Network. I got two shows, Bleav in Betting Chicago, which pretty much covers everything from Chicago sports, gambling angles, movies, entertainment. I've got a wellness, a life wellness person coming on next week to talk about just some mental health issues, which is great. And then I have Bleav in Bears, which focuses mostly just on the Chicago Bears and the football and surrounding issues around the NFL. Check out both of those shows if you go to BleavPodcastNetwork.com or, as you mentioned, with IG, Christopoulos, Christopoulos. Christ. Christopoulos, back to you, Derek.
Incredible IG handle. I say it every time he's on. Just go check him out on all these different platforms. See the great content he's putting out. But there is some content that's not so good, and that's the Minnesota Vikings, who we got to talk about right here. Now, yeah, they got a gift with Christian Darrisaw just falling to them at 23. And they took a flyer on a quarterback, which I told you might happen. I didn't know if it'd be early. They go ahead and take Kellen Mond, so everybody knows that Captain Kirk, he's on a short leash now. I mean, Chase Sherrod, he's an okay linebacker. Now that I look at it, I mean, the Vikings did what the Vikings have been doing. I continue to scroll, and they just have pick after pick after pick, and players that I love when it comes to Wyatt Davis, I love. Patrick Jones, I was a fan of. Bynum, the corner out of Cal, I liked. You go all the way down to my guy, Jalen Twyman from Pittsburgh, who they got at pick 199. I mean, the Vikings have, I don't even know how many. They're in the double digits, as they always are, with 10 to 12, sometimes 15 picks. It's absolutely crazy. I actually do love this draft, and especially the Kellen Mond pick. He was kind of like my next level quarterback that I would have waited, but if I get at a good value, they got him at 66. I mean, that's about where he was going to go, but gosh, everybody in the North is retooling quarterbacks. Could you imagine Goff, Love, Fields, and Mond in 2022?
Pretty incredible, and it was funny. You know, I had a very famous Chicago journalist on, George Hoffman. He works for everyone. He worked for like 670 The Score, all this other stuff throughout the years. And I asked him the question: is it possible that the NFC North has all new quarterbacks next year, minus Kirk Cousins? And we're pretty damn close, right? And here's my thing is, I do like the Darrisaw pick, and I want to get your take on Mond, because I like Mond a lot too as well, and I want to hear more about why you believe that to be so. But the thing with the Vikings thing that really struck me is this draft sort of feels like they were making picks to sort of fix past mistakes that have already happened. And look, I think this team is on the verge of a major transition, right? Like, this could be Zimmer's last season. This could be Kirk Cousins' last season. They've had to overhaul the defense because they couldn't afford to pay everyone, which is why you see a guy like Sherrod get picked as the linebacker. But look, like the offensive line, they had to fix that, so they went in and had to do that. The quarterback, Kirk Cousins, has been taking them to the promised land, even though they've given him buku bucks. They had to go in and do that. The linebackers, the guy that, replaces the Anthony Barrs and the guys they weren't able to keep in. So it just sort of feels like a draft to sort of make up for past mistakes. I don't know how this makes the Vikings a whole lot better. And, I do like Kellen Mond a lot, but does he see the field next season? I kind of have my doubts. I'm not very impressed by this draft. I don't think the Vikings are that much better. And again, with the caveat, if Aaron Rodgers leaves the division this year, not on the Packers week 1, I don't think the Vikings are the dead-on favorite for the division. Do you? I certainly don't see it that way. And if they are, they're very, very beatable. So again, I'm just not very impressed by this draft. What is it about Kellen Mond that you like a whole lot? Because he was a dude that intrigued me through this draft process, and I was kind of looking at quarterbacks too. I kind of like Kellen Mond.
Well, like you say, we got to get to my Lions, and I plan to sort of bag on Minnesota, but the more I look at this draft, I mean, I may love this draft, Joey, to be honest. Like, Darrisaw's 21, Kellen Mond, 21 years old, young guys, right? Mond's a guy that can do it with his arm and his legs, which I always look for in today's game. I'm not trying to get the old Mac Jones pocket passer. You know, the game is evolving, so I think they were right there. And then they do what I like to do a lot, like take care of some impact positions, a tackle and a quarterback early, knowing that you can get linebackers, guards, wide receivers, you know, other positions as the board falls down. And that's exactly what they did. And they also did what I love, which is big schools. I mean, we're talking those top guys. We're talking about that school down south. We're talking about Florida State. I mean, some of these top programs. I think that, you know, like you say, if some of these late round picks work out, I think they're adding depth very quietly with these low cost type players. And like I say, I'm not trying to give the division to anybody, because I think my Lions are going to maybe be a lot sneakier than a lot of people are giving them credit for. You're obviously high on your Bears, and everybody just hands it to the cheeseheads. But I think it might be a muddy mix here in the NFC North, and I just want to see how it plays out. But I do like what the Vikings did, and I do like some of their ballers, which we all know are Dalvin Cook when he actually plays, Jefferson, you know, and some of their other skill guys. So I think they're going to be a good team, and I do like this draft.
Yeah, in terms of Kellen Mond, I just like the dude. I like the way that he set himself kind of in the pocket. He reminds me a little bit of a Dak Prescott guy. I also read that, you know, he dealt with a lot of issues where not everything was clean and easy. You know what I mean? Some of these quarterbacks, you know, let's be very fair. Like, I think some of the things with like Justin Fields is like all the easy throws that he had, Mac Jones, all the weapons that he had around him to throw to. I think Kellen Mond, you know, had to kind of like really work a little bit, and I respect that a whole lot. And obviously, I don't think he's going to be a big factor, you know, this year, but maybe next year, you know, could be a changing of the guard a little bit. And, you know, I'm just kind of curious to see what it's like. And speaking of curious, man, I'm just dying to hear what you think about this Lions draft, because can I just say real quick before you get into it, shame on Dan Campbell. Shame on him. He drafted some of the most unpronounceable names on the planet Earth. I can't pronounce any of these guys' names. I mean, I just got to do better about it, but shame on the Lions. I mean, how am I supposed to know these guys? I mean, help me out with this, Derek.
Do you want to know what Dan Campbell has to say about names that are pronounceable, that are easy, like Smith or Johnson? You want to know what he has to say about those? Do you want to know?
Yeah, bring it.
You've had enough of that.
He's had enough of those simple four-letter names. He's got a four-letter word for you of his own.
You've had enough of that.
Exactly, Dan Campbell. All right, let's get into this Dan freaking Campbell. I'm sorry, that's his government, everybody. That's what his Social Security says. All right, so when we're looking at this Lions draft, here's what you hit on earlier, which I totally agree on. I was waiting to hear to talk about it. The Lions couldn't have had this fall any better. Like, Penei Sewell wasn't even talked about in Detroit till maybe a couple weeks before the draft because nobody thought he'd be there. Why? Because he's pretty much the consensus number 2 player on everybody's board, and he's only number 2 because a quarterback was up top. This guy, he's young. He's been dominant. He's a good kid. He came from a coach's family. He's from a big family of big boys and football players. Like, I just don't see anything I don't like about this guy, and I really went in thinking that there's no way he makes it to 7. So as the board kept falling, I'm kind of like, I got excited after Cincy took Chase, even though I love Chase at Cincy. I'm thinking, like, don't, like you said, don't do it again. Don't take this kid right before me. And when they said Jalen Waddle, I mean, you think Brad Holmes was excited when he almost suplexed somebody through a table, hugging and going crazy. That's about what I was here at the old DTO scouting office. I was so fired up. I was just like hoping that they would say the name when they said that's a slam dunk pick. It's a premier position. I just think he's going to be a dominant player. Could be gold jacket. Don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but really love the player. And let me help you out with some of these names. At 41, defensive tackle Levi Onwuzurike. Now, was he on my top of my radar? No, but he was basically number 2 defensive tackle on pretty much everybody's board. I've already dubbed him. I guess this is a little bit of work in progress with this nickname, but I think I'm going to go with Big Denim. You know what I'm saying? For Levi, I think that's what we're going with for the big fella. And then what they do, they double dip. They double dip at 72 with Aleem McNeil. He's about 330 pounds. He's an outfielder in baseball. I mean, he's just a freak athlete. He's a big bowling ball that can move. I love that. Again, not a player that was totally top my list. I would have went with some other players, but the more I think about it, 3 big bodies to start this draft. And then you go get a guy, let me help you with this one, Ife Melifonwu. 6'2", 215 pounds, athletic corner. You can never have enough corners. Have you heard me say that before? They follow that up with St. Brown, the wide receiver from USC, great slot player. Then they trade up. They trade up for Derek Barnes, a 21-year-old beast that can play the middle. He can play the middle linebacker. He's wearing number 55. You can also drop him down and have him come off the edge. He played a year or two at edge as well. Great kid. Future leader and captain of the Lions. And then the Lions sat pat like your Chicago Bears for a round or two. And then they said, screw it. Give me Jamar Jefferson, the running back out of Oregon State. Really good value at that point. I like that guy as a fantasy football sleeper. I love him as 3-4 type running back for the Detroit Lions. So really like what they did. I like kind of how it was bigs up front. Filled it in later with guys that they needed and premier type positions. I'm looking at all these guys' ages. 20, 20, 21, 21, 21, 23 for Big Denham's the oldest guy on here. So like you say, these guys come together. They'll be here for a long time. And gosh, I just loved it. Got A+ across the board. I mean, you could tell I'm fired up. And so are the Detroit Kool-Aid drinkers. I mean, we didn't even need a big glass of Honolulu Blue flavored, but if you're going to serve it up, we'll have another one.
Drink it in, man.
What'd you think?
Hey man, it's kind of cool, right? Picking up the phone and scrolling through the stuff and seeing that your team actually got good grades on this draft stuff. I tell you, it's a little different for me. And look, I'm on board with what you guys did. And there's 2 schools of thought, right? Where the first one is, let's be honest, you guys could have drafted Justin Fields, right? Now, there's 2 things on it. One, obviously, you got Goff under a bunch of money, and you believe in Goff, and you're going to give it a shot. I think either way, unless Justin, and I don't think this is going to happen, but unless Justin Fields becomes Patrick Mahomes or better than Patrick Mahomes, chances are the Lions probably made the right choice, because what are you guys trying to do, right? You're trying to rebuild this thing and actually do it with a foundation that isn't going to cave in on you guys after a couple seasons. And that's what bad teams do. As a baseball analogy, you don't go out, if your team sucks, you don't go out and you buy the best starting pitcher on the market, right? That's kind of the last piece. You have to go through and you have to find, as you mentioned, Penei Sewell, left tackle for the next 10 years. Wow, that'd be kind of nice. A couple maybe run stuffers, maybe a rotational cornerback, maybe an Amon-Ra St. Brown who, might not blow up the world, but, maybe there is a future where him, Quintez Cephas, and maybe another piece when you actually are ready to spend money on that. You can bring a guy in, and now you've got a pretty decent collection. I think they're going about it the right way. They're not trying to turbocharge the rebuild, right? There's going to be growing pains, but I think you guys are going to get a chance to really enjoy watching some of these guys. And in terms of also Jared Goff, getting that left tackle and getting some help for him to make his job easier is going to be so paramount to his success, because he cannot do it by himself. He is not that type of player. He can be successful in the system, but he just can't do it on his own. He needs help. You guys are trying to give him that. And, maybe that'll set you guys up for a position to maybe have a little success this year and maybe speed up the process heading into the year after.
Well, like I do most times when you're on, I got to help the Bears fan out a little bit. Penei Sewell, because our offensive line is so dominant at multiple positions, he will be playing the right side, which is awesome because Taylor Decker's there on the left, Penei on the right. You have recently ranked number 2 overall center in football by Pro Football Focus. His name is Frank Ragnow. We also have a kid named Jonah Jackson, who we took in round 3 last year, who's penciled in at left guard. And we have multiple options over there at right guard, whether it be Hal Vaitai, Stenberg, a couple other big bodies that we can play over there. So, Joey, I'm here to tell you, the biggest thing that has Lions fans pumped, and I've been talking about a lot on my shows, is that there's always been a lot of talk, a good offensive line, a good defense would be exciting. I'm here to tell you, when you got like 4 guys that are all basically in their early to mid 20s, and they've 3 have already basically produced or will produce, and you got this young kid coming in, it's exciting for pass protection, run game. I mean, Penei seems fine to play the right side for now. If anything ever happens to your left tackle, you have a total guy that could just flip over to that side. And if Taylor Decker falls off a little bit, maybe there's a transition plan. But like you say, he's a left tackle that doesn't even have to play there and can play the other side. So that's just another reason why I'm so excited about it, as well as, like you say, getting receivers, corners, linebackers, big bodies in the middle of our defense. I feel like we went from a horrible defense to now you look at our front, we probably got about 8 guys up there that are going to be a handful, I think, to deal with, whereas before it was, 1, 2 maybe that you kind of had to worry about. Now I think we can roll some people through there. This is a new scheme too, where it's like go get the quarterback instead of just stand there. So Aleem McNeil, I think you'll see a lot of penetration from the big fella. I think Big Denham is going to be a guy he can kick outside, he can move inside. He just loves football and loves to mess people up. I didn't want to use the explicative that he used in his introductory presser multiple times, but he likes to mess people up. He likes to get his bleep handled, you know what I'm saying, and seems like a really good personality as well. So not only were these guys good values, good positions, good potential, but they all love football. They all seem like great guys. They're young, as I said. Just so many things to like about it. And now, like I often say, now go out and do it. You know, same with Jared Goff. Hey, they put their faith in you. They gave you an offensive line. You have a few nice skilled players to use. Now when they kick the ball off on Sunday, you got to go out there, protect the ball, make plays. And if he does that, I don't see why this Lions team can't sneak up on some people and get some W's and have that nice foundation of big fellas and skill guys that you look for.
My extensive thoughts on Jared Goff probably maybe need to be reserved for the Friday pod, but I will tell you that circle it on your calendars right now, Bears and Lions fans, because, dude, Penei Sewell versus Khalil Mack is going to be a matchup that you are all going to want to watch. I think that's interesting and intriguing, and I will tell you that from a different system, Goff coming from the Rams system, Khalil Mack eats Jared Goff's lunch. He orders his dinner for him, and when the dinner arrives at Jared Goff's table, Khalil Mack then eats the dinner right in front of Jared Goff. He owns him in every sort of sense of the way. So I think that's going to be a really interesting matchup heading into next year. And, young talent versus stud defensive end, let's get it. I think it'll be really cool.
Joey, the promo, the hype man. That's why I love having him on the show. I get a few cheap shots on his team, and then he comes back strong at the end. But I think Mr. Sewell, Mr. Decker, Mr. Ragnow, Mr. Jackson, and company will be more than ready for this one player that you think is going to wreck our team. And Jared Goff's about ready to just dime all over the field against Chicago and others, and everybody is sleeping on him. So, Joey, we've ran through the NFC North. We talked about those other teams. We got to talk about our teams. Had some fun. I got you coming back. Do you want me to play the singing again, or should we just go to hopefully the Friday show and maybe we put Fields under the microscope and figure out if this guy's really what you think he is, and maybe I will explain why he's a guy the Lions passed on at number 7. How about we go ahead and possibly do that on Friday? We'll talk more football, more Lions. I'm sure you'll sneak some Bears talk in there throughout, as you often do. But I thought this was a good roundup. It was good to talk to you about the drafts and talk about all the different teams, because it's important what our teams do, but it's also important what the other teams do and how we stack up. So I think we gave the people some good things to think about, and I served up some of that Detroit Koolaid like I like to do here on the show.
Yeah, man, super great time. Thanks again so much for having me. And listeners, yeah, you better come back Friday, because, I think we're putting our case together to go to Koolaid Court. And there's going to be a settlement as we get forensic, and we put both, I think, maybe Goff and Justin Fields under the microscope. And it might only be May, but I think me and you right now might be in midseason form in terms of talking crap about each other's quarterbacks. So I'm ready to rock and roll.
Joey, we might have to get the truth on Friday.
You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth.
We'll see if you can handle it on Friday right here on the Detroit Koolaid Cast. Take care, everybody. We're out.
Pack the bag, start the plane. This game is over. It is over. What a comeback by the Lions.
Drink it in, man.